Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming out again today. I will speak for a moment and then be followed by Bill Duran of FEMA, and I'm proud to be joined today by the team standing behind me, and especially Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. I want to thank him for his attendance today and his partnership throughout. As you all probably know by now, Harvey has been downgraded to a tropical storm. And we expect that the northward movement will slow down tremendously, and it will basically become stationary, sitting over a large portion of south central Texas for several days and drop a tremendous amount of rain. This is a very large, powerful storm, and the rain bands will cross over into Louisiana, and we will see rain in Louisiana as well. It is very difficult to predict what will happen next with Harvey. However, the folks at the National Weather Service no longer believe that it will re-enter the Gulf and come to the southern part of Louisiana. There is, however, a slightly elevated risk of tornadoes along those rain bands in Louisiana, and in fact, we have had a confirmed report of a tornado in Hackberry earlier today that did some property damage, but we do not have any reports of any injuries or fatalities at this point. But I mention that because this weather system is capable of tornadoes as well. If the storm does move to Louisiana, the storm itself, not just the bands, that could be several days from now and would most likely happen in central and northwestern Louisiana, somewhere from about Leesville up to Shreveport. As people will recall from last year, on a couple of occasions, we had an awful lot of rain in that area that did fill those rivers and cause some problems for our communities along the Texas border. That remains a possibility as well moving forward. And so the main message for the people of Louisiana today is to not become complacent, to be very patient. This storm is going to be around for a long time. It is going to still drop a lot of rain in the state of Louisiana. And in fact, over the next several days, the rain expected in southwest Louisiana will be between 7 and 13 inches of rain. In south central Louisiana, 6 to 11 inches, and in central Louisiana, 3 to 5 inches. Now, that could be heavier in isolated areas as well. In addition to my statewide declaration of emergency, 18 parishes have now declared a state of emergency, and we're waiting on one more that is in progress that will make a total of 19 parishes. The state is responding to any and all requests that come in for assistance. And at this point, we have responded primarily to requests for assistance related to sandbags and have distributed 247,000 sandbags, but also requests for water and meals as well, with about 576 MREs having been distributed. The Coast Guard is currently searching for one person that fell off a fishing vessel in Cameron Parish, and so they're out doing that. This remains a very dangerous situation. Everyone should be very cautious. The Louisiana National Guard, the state police, and Wildlife and Fisheries, and other agencies are ready to respond in Louisiana and are in contact with their counterparts in Texas. The state is, in fact, sending personnel to Texas as we speak, particularly the Wildlife and Fisheries agents, one team of 10 personnel and 10 boats to assist with search and rescue efforts. More assistance will be offered once we can fully assess the situation here in Louisiana and know what our needs will be over time. I do ask the people to remain patient. We do have 3 areas of the state that remain under evacuation. We have a mandatory evacuation that continues south of the Intercoastal Canal down in Cameron Parish, in Vermilion Parish south of Highway 14, and in Iberia Parish south of Highway 90. Those are voluntary evacuations, and so please take the guidance as it comes from the local officials in those areas, it does appear at this point that the storm surge is not as pronounced as we had initially thought. In fact, it's been downgraded from 1 to 3 feet to 1 to 2 feet. Obviously, that's the bigger problem at high tide. We do have another high tide down in southwest Louisiana tonight around 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., and then another high tide in the morning at around 7:30 a.m. So we would ask people to remain vigilant and patient. And at this time, I'm going to ask Bill Duran from FEMA to come up and speak, and following that, we will take some questions.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate the posture of Louisiana being prepared. Our hearts go out to the folks in Texas. We have a lot of FEMA folks over there working, while I've also got still leaning forward preparedness here for the threat. As the governor said, that threat may go through into next week. We will remain here and vigilant to support the state of Louisiana with federal assets if needed. With that, Governor, thank you so much.
Thank you. And everybody in Louisiana is watching TV right now, and they're seeing those images coming out of Texas, and we've seen an awful lot of that here in Louisiana, and the folks in Texas are going to be going through this for quite some time, and so we certainly offer them our assistance as best we can to be a good neighbor for them, and we offer them our prayers as well. And we will continue to be vigilant here in Louisiana over the next number of days. With that, we're happy to take questions. Yes, ma'am. I knew there would be one over there.
So, Governor, are you less or more concerned than you were yesterday about New Orleans and the pumping system and rain falling?
Well, I am less concerned for two reasons. First of all, don't take that to mean that I am unconcerned. But I'm less concerned for two reasons, because every day the capacity for both generation of electricity and for pumps improves, but also the forecast as it relates specifically to New Orleans has improved, and they don't see significant rainfall beyond what we would ordinarily expect at this time of year just from the afternoon thunderstorms. So for those two reasons, I am less concerned. However, we do know that through September the 4th or 5th, New Orleans will be more vulnerable than we would want it to be because of those two issues around pumps and around electricity generation. And so we remain vigilant there. And while we're focused on southwest Louisiana for the direct impacts of Harvey, we have been meeting and talking with our partners in New Orleans, and really not just the state, but our federal partners as well. The folks at FEMA, the folks at the Corps of Engineers, and other federal agencies are working with the folks in New Orleans to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to be prepared there. Any other questions? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just had a question. I read something about some medical centers being set up in Baton Rouge specifically. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Bill to come and brief this specifically so that he gets the terminology right. But a couple of nights ago, I actually received a phone call from Secretary Dr. Tom Price at Health and Human Services, and he indicated that they were going to push a lot of personnel and assets south towards here in Louisiana, but also in Texas. They are doing that and working here in Louisiana with Dr. Gee at the Department of Health. Some of those assets, and the reason I'm going to ask Bill to come is they may have already made a decision to move some of those into Texas, or maybe they're going to leave them here for a little while longer before they move them to Texas. But as far as exactly what's here in Louisiana and what we can expect out of them over the next couple of days, I'm going to ask Bill to fill you in.
So this is a federal medical staging situation where we're going to stage some equipment so that's ready to go. So we've identified some support that we would need to give Louisiana in case of a storm with medical special needs, and it's to support the Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals. So we're leaning forward by moving it forward here but we don't engage it until we actually have a declaration and request from the state for it. But it's great that FEMA can move forward with stuff without having to wait for a declaration, that we can be prepared and ready to respond at a moment's notice, and that's pretty much why that's here. Thanks.
And just for reference, this would be the same type of operation that we put into play at the field house at LSU in August of last year. So that's what we're leaning forward on. Obviously, we would hope not to have to pull the trigger on it, and that those assets would be available to go to Texas if they're needed there.
Governor?
Yes, sir.
Even though Harvey doesn't appear that it will affect us much here in Louisiana,
Yeah.
why do you think it's important for people, citizens, not to put their guard down?
Well, because this is going to play out over the next several days, and what's happening today is consistent with what we thought would happen yesterday and the day before with the forecast. This storm is going to sit over south central Texas for a number of days with rain bands, and eventually it is going to move. It can move due north, it can move northeast. We don't know yet, and so we don't want people to become complacent and stop paying attention and let their guard down. The other thing is, we know that there are direct impacts being felt today because of Harvey. We had a tornado in Hackberry, for example. Thank goodness, as of right now, we don't believe that there were any injuries or fatalities, but there was extensive property damage in a certain area down there. And so this remains a very dangerous storm, and so we need to make sure that we're prepared and people are paying attention. We have the potential for flooding across a good part of Louisiana related to the direct impacts of what we're seeing right now, but then as late as 1 week from now. I mean, that's how long this is going to play out. It may be a week before that storm actually crosses into Louisiana and dumps a lot of rain in our state and in eastern portions of Texas, all of which drain to the Sabine River, for example, and could cause flooding there. And we've seen that flooding last March. So we're a long ways from being out of the woods. But we are very thankful that it hasn't been more severe up to now. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know if people from Texas are evacuating
Yeah.
here or coming to Louisiana?
We at this point in time have not seen an influx of folks from Texas evacuating to or through Louisiana even. Yesterday afternoon, there was a period of time when the traffic volume on I-10 was elevated, but it was not so much that the traffic ever came to a stop or became a problem. We have had one family of 5 from Texas that we housed in a shelter in Rapides Parish overnight. They have since left that shelter, and so we don't have any issue right now in terms of the folks coming out of Texas either to stay in Louisiana or with respect to their movement across our state. That is consistent with what we were told a couple of days ago, where individuals would be advised in Texas to evacuate north, not come east, and that had to do with the storm itself having impacts on Louisiana. I want to thank you all. We will not schedule right now the next press conference, but we will let you know should events warrant another press conference. We will let you know when that's going to be. In the meantime, please be diligent, pay attention, and we can pray not just for ourselves, but certainly for our neighbors in Texas, that this storm not be as damaging to property and certainly not to life as it might otherwise be. Thank you all very much.